Welcome back to Catholic Plus, where we are finding faith in fun. Join me as we mine entertainment for the treasures of our faith to serve you and the new evangelization. Today, we're exploring the Book of Boba Fett, Season 1, Episode 7. If you like Catholicism and Star Wars, click that like button. And if you'd like to see more from Catholic Plus about Star Wars, Marvel, and more, click the subscribe button and tap the bell icon. In the destroyed Casino Sanctuary, Fennec Shand and Boba Fett mourn the cost of war, because even if they win, as Boba says, there may be nothing left of the city. This mirrors Catholic social teaching on war, and that only a really just cause may justify such violence. Here, the discussion about Catholic social teaching continues as the condition for the garrison of militia on behalf of Cobb Vanth and the citizens of Freetown to help Boba is to stop the spice trade. Fennec Shand protests that the spice trade is a big part of the business that comes through Tatooine, but Boba recognizes that in the long run, it's better for everybody to stop it, regardless of the personal financial loss to him. Now, quick reminder, spice in Star Wars is the equivalent of drugs. What Boba Fett is doing is kind of like voting for a politician who is better for the common good, even if another candidate could be more personally beneficial to us individually. Boba says, spice is killing our people. You will notice the sense of ownership that Boba Fett shows here as he uses the word our people. The mods convince Boba Fett not to return to his palace to await these reinforcements and for the battle to come, but rather to set up camp in the city for the protection of the people. Again, Boba Fett consistently makes good choices, though not perfect, showing himself to be a just and virtuous leader with each decision. As the villains gather, they talk strategy by trying to limit the resources available to Boba Fett. Cad Bane reports that he has neutralized Cobb Vanth and the people of Freetown. The mayor asks about the tribe of Tusken Raiders that Boba Fett lived with, and we discover that the Pikes actually slaughtered the Tuskens and made it look like the Nikto biker gang. So this makes Boba Fett's previous revenge on the biker gang even more regrettable, because he jumped to what the Catechism of the Catholic Church calls rash judgment by inflicting consequences on a group of undeserving Niktos who were framed because Boba Fett did not investigate thoroughly enough. You might say that's part of the reason why the church opposes the death penalty. There are times when new evidence comes to light that proves someone previously convicted as actually innocent. Plus, there's always the opportunity for conversion prior to death, and that is of utmost spiritual importance. Here comes this X-Wing flying into the city, and I was pretty convinced it was Luke himself. But we get an extremely quick resolution to the question about Grogu's choice regarding Mando versus Jedi training. At the same time, Boba Fett prepares for war, and they have all of their assets stationed throughout the city. The Gamorrean guards are at the starport, Chrysanthemum is at City Hall, and the mods are stationed in the Workers' District. While Boba's team is set up for an attack from any angle, Cad Bane walks right up to the Casino Sanctuary to challenge Boba directly. Sometimes we are ready for an attack from the devil in a big way, but it's the little ways that he gets us out and brings us down. And this is precisely the strategy Cad Bane is using. These two have a lot of history, having done jobs together in the past, and Cad Bane even practically training Boba Fett to a degree. In an unreleased episode of The Clone Wars, Cad Bane is even responsible for putting that dent in Boba Fett's helmet on his forehead. Just like devils do, Cad Bane instills doubt in Boba Fett that the people of Freetown and Cobb Vanth are not coming to support them. What Cad Bane offers is peace as long as the spice trade can resume for the Pikes. Boba is left with an opportunity to do the right thing for the people and risk his life and that of his new associates, his new team, or to make a lot of money as the daimyo as long as he allows the spice trade to continue like Jabba the Hutt and Bib Fortuna before him. This, of course, would go entirely against Boba Fett's emerging virtuous principles. Thankfully, Boba Fett says no. Cad Bane then baits Boba by telling him the truth about the Tusken Raiders being slaughtered by the Pikes. Bane's strategy has now switched to provoke emotion and undermine Boba Fett's logic. Just like the devils do to us in temptation, they will switch their strategy at any given time when they see a greater weakness. Boba grips his gun tighter, and Fennec Shand has to step out to be a cool voice of reason, almost like a guardian angel, to counsel Boba not to engage. Despite being emotionally rattled and outnumbered, Boba Fett listens to the wisdom proposed by Fennec Shand and ceases negotiation. All of a sudden, the Pikes launch an offensive on every front, attacking all of Boba Fett's assets around the city. When demons don't get what they want through temptation, sometimes they create pressure from multiple angles in our lives to compromise our position so that we'll give in to sin. So the Trandoshians end up turning on Krrsantan while the Gamorreans are forced back off of a cliff to the town below. Fennec Shand comes to the rescue of the mods, who actually respond with a thank you, and Fennec replies, "Manners. I like it." A nice respect shown to one's superiors and elders. Fennec says, "You're welcome," and then speeds away to take out the enemy leadership. As the Pikes show up to surround the sanctuary, Boba Fett offers Mando an opportunity to leave before the fighting. Mando decides to stay. He says it's against the creed. "I gave my word. I'm with you till we both fall," Mando says. Now, if you or I had as much adherence to the teachings of the church as Mando does his creed, our church and world would be in a completely different place. Mando suggests that they make an escape to the palace and evacuate in Boba Fett's ship, but Boba Fett says he cannot abandon the people of Mos Espa, who are counting on him. And Mando says, "Okay, we will both die in the name of honor." These guys are like medieval knights committed to their cause, or like Cristero soldiers in the Mexican Cristero War, ready to die for our Lord Jesus Christ. I always maintain that a hero must resemble Jesus Christ by being willing to offer himself in heroic self-sacrifice, and both Boba and Mando are proving honorable in this regard. The mayor's major domo suggests that he goes out and offers to negotiate on their behalf. They use this as a ruse until Boba Fett and Mando have an opportunity to fly in and attack from above. The way these guys are flying around reminds me of angels raining down fire on demons, maybe even like at Armageddon. Taking hit after hit on their Beskar armor, Boba and Mando continue the assault, never giving up. And yet, when they become overwhelmed by their attackers, they are surprised as reinforcements arrive from the people of Freetown. As has persisted throughout the entire series, Boba Fett's willingness to make friends with other virtuous parties and alliances with unlikely partners like the Mods and Krrsantan continues to pay off for the good of everyone. It is a communal battle here, like the communion of saints. We should learn that by partnering with other good people in the church, we can all achieve so much more together rather than trying to fight alone. The same is also true in the spiritual life. We all need prayer and spiritual support to fulfill our universal calling to holiness. In this battle for our souls, we must work together. Mando says to the bartender, "You guys didn't have to come," and the bartender replies, "Yes, we did. The planet deserves better." Here we have everybody fighting on behalf of the people of Tatooine, selflessly and honorably, to promote the common good of all Tatooine citizens. Incredibly, after having fought off his attackers, Krrsantan arrives to help, but he's wounded and unable to walk quickly. Loyal to his men, Boba Fett leaves the safety of the speeder and rushes out to help the Wookiee. Saving him, they seem like they're winning until a couple of huge walking battle tanks arrive. The droid shields seem impregnable, just like as sometimes we don't seem to make any progress in the virtuous life or in our battle against sin. Even Boba Fett's rocket doesn't make a dent. At times like these, we need to find other solutions. Maybe something in our life needs to change, or our priorities need to be redirected. Since God's grace is sufficient for us to deal with the thorns in our flesh, as St. Paul says, we need to find another way. In the meantime, Boba Fett's willingness to risk his own life to help others has now spilled over into the rest of his team as his leadership style and virtue has caught on. Here, we see a couple of mods helping the wounded Krrsantan as well. In his own act of heroism, Mando distracts one of the droid battle tanks for the sake of the villagers to escape with a better chance. Mando and Grogu are hereby reunited, and Mando asks Pele, "What is he doing here?" And she replies, "The Force works in mysterious ways." Obviously, this has strong correlation to God and the Holy Spirit, since John chapter 3 verse 8 says, "The Spirit blows where it wills." Mando is now practically defending the orphan and the widow as Jesus frequently commanded in the New Testament. He's truly become a man for others. Even in the midst of persistent evil, he stands and fights, gets knocked down again and again, and gets back up and keeps fighting. This is an example of true masculinity. Boba Fett returns, riding on his Rancor. Now, granted, this is not the most angelic of beasts, but appearances can be deceiving, and this is certainly like an intercession for the good guys. Mando, finally thinking outside the box, pulls out his Darksaber and he's able to pass through the droid's defensive force field, and he's able to then attack from the inside. Sometimes the best way to defend against the attacks of evil are to attack it head on, with rosaries and novenas and stations of the cross and other devotions, adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, for example. As Mando is knocked to the ground and vulnerable, Grogu steps in and uses the Force to break apart one of the legs, and the droid falls tumbling down next to Mando. But still persisting in its attack against Mando, Boba Fett and the Rancor return, and having been temporarily fought off, they destroy the droid battle tank. Fett then takes his Rancor to help the mods and citizens of Freetown who are battling the other droid battle tank. They make quick work of the remaining Pikes, and victory seems inevitable until Cad Bane strolls into the street. Our personification of evil for the show, Cad Bane is intelligent, manipulative, deceptive, and formidable. He also seems to have no fear in the midst of this Rancor. Bane fights off the Rancor with his flamethrower, and Boba Fett is knocked to the ground as the Rancor flees, and it comes down to a Western gunfight. Boba Fett offers Bane the opportunity to leave, but Bane says, "I can't figure out what's your angle." Boba's response is simple. He says, "This is my city. These are my people. I will not abandon them." Bane hits low and says, "Like the Tuskens?" which is an intentional dig to get under Boba Fett's skin because he wasn't able to protect his Tusken Raider family. This is a very demonic play, if you ask me. Boba Fett says, "Don't toy with me. I'm not a little boy any longer, and you're an old man." They prepare for a gunfight, and Cad Bane knocks Boba down with one shot. Boba Fett responds with his flamethrower, and Cad Bane rolls and fires again, knocking Boba to the ground. This reminds me of the Stations of the Cross when Jesus falls to the ground a second time. And now, Boba Fett is out of reach of his blaster. Cad Bane pins Boba and rips off his helmet, almost like Jesus being stripped of his garments again in the Stations of the Cross. Cad Bane's final comments before shooting Boba are, "Consider this my final lesson. Look out for yourself. Anything else is weakness," which is completely opposed to everything Boba Fett has been driving toward and changing about his character, from being a bounty hunter to the head of a family. Boba Fett prepares to die, but then he rolls, taking the shot on his breastplate and striking Cad Bane with his Tusken war staff, which knocks away Cad Bane's pistol. Having learned how to fight with the staff from the Tuskens, whom Bane has repeatedly mocked, Boba attacks Bane, knocking him to the ground, and defends himself from a second pistol attack from Bane. Finally disarming Bane, Boba has to defend against one last flamethrower attack, and then quickly stabs Cad Bane with his staff. With this stroke, Boba Fett honors the training he received from the Tuskens, with whom he bonded after coming out of the Sarlacc, and who started his path to a more virtuous life surrounded as a member of a community rather than being alone. And Boba shared that lesson with so many, including Fennec Shand, Krrsantan, and even Mando. This lethal stroke right here is the symbolic victory of community over individualism. Boba Fett stands, the defender of the people of Tatooine, a servant leader. In the meantime, the Rancor is loose in the city and he's threatening the lives of the citizens. Mando steps in to try to save everyone selflessly, but he ends up in the jaws of this Rancor, literally. He turns out to be too spicy of a meal, and the Rancor casts Mando to the ground. As the Rancor comes down and threatens the rest of them, Grogu steps out between the Rancor and Mando to protect him. Unintimidated by the beast, it's like Grogu is right out of Psalm 23. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And the you in this sense, instead of God, would be like the Force. Grogu extends his hand and using the Force, puts the Rancor to sleep peacefully, thereby saving the rest of the town. Even the most hardened, sinful heart can be softened and put to sleep by the peaceful and loving grace of God. Sometimes we may feel like a Rancor, but even just a little bit of God's love and grace can help us find the rest and peace we so desperately seek. Outside of the city, all of the evil forces convene at Mos Eisley. Judgment Day has come for them as Fennec Shand arrives. One by one, they fall and Fennec Shand ends it. Back at Mos Espa, the city comes back to life as they rebuild. Boba and Fennec take to the streets like they did several episodes earlier, not carried on a litter, but on foot, with the people, and they receive gracious gestures from those for whom they have fought and served to protect. Boba Fett returns the gestures. We get one last curtain call with Boba Fett's new family of associates, and Mando flies off into the sunset towards Season 3 of The Mandalorian with Grogu in the passenger dome. But what do you think? And did I miss anything? Comment below so that we can share more spiritual insights together. If you're proud to be Catholic and a fan of Star Wars, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the share button below to help evangelize with us. Special thanks to all Catholic Plus patrons who make Catholic Plus possible. To see the special thank you gifts you can receive by supporting Catholic Plus, check out our Patreon page link in the description below. I'll see you again in the next episode, and remember, the Lord will be with you always.